So today we are going to talk about Justin Fields, Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Jadon Haselwood and how all that works out and all that's coming up after the bumper. What's up, kid folk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. So it's OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time. And today we're going to talk about the transfer target for the 2019 offseason. That would be UGA quarterback Justin Fields, who has not announced that he's transferring, but he did enter his name into the transfer portal, which is what that is for. Now, news was broke by USA Today earlier in the week last week about Justin Fields' intention to leave Georgia. Now, the folks at Georgia want everybody to know he ain't left. He's still coming to practice. He's still preparing. He's still getting ready for their game against Texas, but we all know what's coming down the line. Now, it was thrown out that Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Florida State were the primary suitors for Justin Fields, and then signing day happened. And Florida State turned into a dumpster fire, depending on who you ask. Now, they finished with a pretty good signing class, but nobody knows exactly what to do with Willie Taggart's group, especially after return of the MAC stole Florida State's girl, QB commit Sam Howell, who was a blue chip recruit and the kind of guy that you thought was going to help Florida State continue to just land those really great high school quarterbacks. That ain't the case. That dude is up and going to UNC for a dude whose name is Mac and has never heard of Mark Morrison, which is a travesty. I don't know what Mac Brown is saying when he goes to recruit these kids, but it's obviously working. Maybe it's something along the lines of what the retiring homes are like at Bristol. But on to Justin Fields, who has drawn many comparisons to guys like Cam Newton because he's enormous, he can run, and he's got an arm. He's 6'3", 225. And many folks would ask, why does this guy want to transfer from Georgia? Well, number one, he's the backup at Georgia, and he has the potential to start for almost anybody in the FBS. He just happens to play behind a guy who not only was pretty decent as a true freshman last year, but has grown into a top 10 quarterback in college football now. He's 6th in yards per attempt at Georgia, which ain't no fluke, especially as a true sophomore. And when it was becoming clear that they weren't able to find a real role for Justin Fields to play, yeah, man, he was going to get fed up with that. You would. Because at Georgia, he wasn't actually a quarterback. He ran the ball more than he threw it. Now, I understand that there are offenses where that works. My God, Army, just drub Houston. That's one example of where that works. But Justin Fields wants to play in the NFL. And in the NFL, they're looking for dudes that can throw the ball. If you can move, yes, that is awesome. But as a quarterback, the first job is to be able to complete passes. And when you don't have many attempts, yeah, that's not a good look for you because you don't want to be construed as a wildcat quarterback. So that's one. The second reason is perhaps the 4th and 11 call by Kirby Smart in the SEC title game where you had a Willie Beeman moment. And I don't mean that to say that he was breaking out. I mean that to say when Willie Beeman was yelling at his coach talking about how he got his shoulder all messed up because he had a coach that didn't see him as a quarterback and thought he was a cornerback and had him tackling dudes that were bigger and larger than he was because he doesn't do that kind of stuff. Well, you know, Justin Fields is not an up back. That's not what he does. Snapping the ball to him in that position and saying, go make something happen is ridiculous. It also does not bend to his skill set. If you're going to do that, at least put the dude in a passing formation, give him an option of 3, 4, 5 receivers to throw to, and then maybe use his legs. But also, perhaps it's just that he doesn't want to wilt behind Jake Fromm. This is a guy who could start for 4 straight years if he had gone to a different school. He's probably going to get an opportunity to start for 3 straight years if he can get his eligibility back. Who knows what the hardship might be there, but he is going to apply for it. Now, Oklahoma and Ohio State are at the top of the list for 2 reasons. Both of the coaches there have pedigree as quarterbacks coaches and are quarterbacks whisperers. Now, I know that Ryan Day, who is the new head coach at Ohio State, does not have the same pedigree as Lincoln Riley. We're talking about a guy who put 2 quarterbacks on the Heisman Trophy podium in back-to-back years, and in back-to-back years has had the most prolific offense in college football, and in back-to-back years has been at the forefront, at the edge of offensive innovation in football. He's been talked about for NFL head coaching jobs, offensive coordinator gigs. He's very happy at Oklahoma, and he just is in the process of putting together a top 10 recruiting class, if not a top 5 recruiting class, if you can add a guy like Jadon Haselwood, who is a 5-star wide receiver, who is also being sought after by Georgia. Now, there's been lots of talk about how Fields and Hazelwood have a kinship. They would both particularly like to play with each other. They're both Georgia kids. Who knows how that actually works out? But what we do know is Oklahoma is spoken in the same breath with both Justin Fields and Jadon Haselwood. Maybe they're concocting something to where they end up at Oklahoma. That is one toward Oklahoma. Another one is Lincoln Riley's pedigree as, if I make you the signal caller, you're going to be pretty good because I'm going to build the offense around you. I'm going to build the offense around what you do well. We're going to put in place things for you to succeed. And he's proven that time and time again with transfer quarterbacks. That's something else that doesn't get hit on a lot. Kyler Murray was considered to be damaged goods before he transferred to Oklahoma, then added another sport to what he does, and still won a Heisman Trophy and had one of the best football seasons for anybody in the history of college football this season. Baker Mayfield was a walk-on twice. Once at Texas Tech, once at Oklahoma, won the Heisman Trophy because, well, that dude's just stupidly accurate with a football, one. And also because Baker Mayfield listened to Lincoln Riley, and more importantly, Lincoln Riley listened to Baker Mayfield. He wasn't trying to coach the kid to do something he doesn't do. Lincoln Riley's really great at figuring out what it is you do well, and then making the offense do more of that. So that's another thing for Justin Fields to think about if he has Oklahoma on the brain. But if you're following the news, you see how this feels like it's Ohio State's to lose. One, because reportedly the only team, the only coach to actually reach out to Justin Fields since he put his name in the transfer portal is Ryan Day at Ohio State. That's number one. So that's the guy saying, yes, we would love to have you here if you want to come. Number two is they're real thin at quarterback at Ohio State. Now, Dwayne Haskins is going into the NFL draft. It's all but done, and he's being talked about as a top 10 pick, which means that somebody is going to have to start for Ohio State next year. We thought it'd be five-star prospect Tate Martell, but if you bring Justin Fields in there and he's immediately eligible, you got to believe that Justin Fields is probably going to be the dude to win out that job just because he's bigger, he's stronger, he's got more to go with, and he's already built for the kind of scheme Ohio State's used to running. Now, I know they threw the ball a lot more last year than they do in a regularly run Urban Meyer Ohio State offense. But what was clear was Dwayne Haskins ain't a runner. Now, he moves, but he ain't a runner. That's not what you want back there. That dude has the same kind of feet as Sam Bradford. What you want him to do is throw passes, and that's what he did a lot of. But Ryan Day also knows how to coach dudes that know how to move with their feet. And with Justin Fields, you kind of get the best of both worlds. Don't know if the dude's as accurate as Dwayne Haskins, who can put it where he wants to, but if he is, he's twice the runner of Dwayne Haskins. So Ohio State just reloads at quarterback. That said, the real tip-off was Georgia swung an early signing commit from Ohio State to Georgia at quarterback. His name is Dwan Mathis. Now, he'll tell you it didn't have much to do with Justin Fields, but it did have to do with they only had 2 scholarship quarterbacks, and I feel really good about being at Georgia and having an opportunity to play. Now, most people believe that Dwan Mathis would rise to the backup behind Jake Fromm, and he would be the heir apparent going forward. And because you got that year separation, Dwan Mathis still has an opportunity to play a couple of years as a starter at Georgia, who's going to be really good for a few years to come. But it feels like this is just going to be a straight swap. A 4-star recruit of this year for early signing period going to Georgia for a former 5-star recruit and backup quarterback at Georgia going to Ohio State. I like the signing of Dwan Mathis for Georgia. I like the transfer of Justin Fields to Ohio State, and it just seems to make too much sense because the quarterback room is going to be loaded at Oklahoma with Austin Kendall, who's been in the system longer than anybody else who's eligible to play at Oklahoma. Spencer Rattler, 5-star recruit coming in the summer, and we all know that Tanner Mordecai is the wild card who could actually emerge as a winner of the job. We don't know this for sure, but it is bearing mention because he spun it and spun it well when he had opportunities last season. Now, you go into that room with your Justin Fields and you got 3 quarterbacks to compete with. And then if you are ineligible at Oklahoma, you're in a real dogfight with Austin Kendall, who's got 2 years of eligibility left, with Spencer Rattler, who's got a year in the system, and with Tanner Mordecai, who's redshirted, and he's up for the job as soon as somebody gets hurt. I just think that if you're Justin Fields, you end up at Ohio State, you put yourself in position to win a Big Ten championship, to perhaps win a national championship if you're that good, if you can fix what's going on with that run defense. But more than that, you put yourself in great position to be a top 10 overall pick underneath a head coach and offensive coordinator who has proven he can develop quarterbacks into first rounders and great passers. So that just makes the most sense for me. Alright, that's it for me. Deuces.